Yeah, so that's probably why we didn't see. We actually just got data for 2023 a month ago, so looking at the newer data will probably may fill those gaps, so we'll take a look at that.
Question, start with basic timing on what you're looking at the stages that we went through. And what timing, and then how do we proceed from there with each one? What happens next?
So once the town of Brentwood provides us with a written response of,
I didn't catch you.
once the town of Brentwood will, based on this presentation and the alternatives that we're writing here, will generate a written comment back to the DOT, in which alternatives they're in favor of, against, and or otherwise. And then we kind of touched on the timelines briefly here. If we were to do a full structural improvement in addition to the restriping, that could be done later this year.
This year.
If we were to do just striping, it would probably be 2 to 3 years just because of the resurfacing, the pavement resurfacing schedule. And then something long-term would be years out potentially to accommodate design and.
Roundabout when you're talking years. Are you talking a couple of years just for the striping? Is that's so, it doesn't strike me as
Well,
that's required of.
Yeah, it's not a significant effort. The issue is that if you obliterate the lines that are there now, it's gonna leave black residual lines essentially. And then you repaint where you want the new lines, and it's gonna look like there's 2 sets of lines. So unless you also repave the road as part of that effort, it's gonna look and behave poorly.
Wasn't that part of the road repaint, not repaint, was it repaint recently? It seems to me there was something going on.
It probably was repaved within the last few years. I don't know specifically. Actually, I do. I don't remember. It was within the last few years. But
Because
that was before this audit.
it would be my take that if you're talking a year or 2 more, I would think we would try and do something a little more quicker than that.
Right.
For the reasons of safety and
Right.
going with this, we've already been, what, a year and a half?
Right.
And another, we're looking at 2 more years to even get, I don't think, would be my feeling from the town that would be acceptable.
No, I agree. That's why we're recommending the intermediate. That would be this season. Yes, thank you.
Hi, Stephanie Frieza, Mary May Drive. Thank you for your presentation, very informative. I just had 2 quick things. One, I just want to go on the record to voice my support of the long-term plan for a roundabout. I think that's the best solution ultimately, and I think that could address some of the concerns about vehicles turning left out of the side street. They only have to look in one direction, and the vehicles that they'd be trying to find a gap would be moving much more slowly. That being said, I guess along with that, I would like to, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the possibility of that type of project being funded fully with highway safety improvement funds, because it's my understanding that's a shorter timeline than the traditional 10-year planning process.
It is. If you were to, I guess, enlist a project to do that under the 10-year plan process today, it would probably get bumped to the end of the 10-year plan, which goes to 10 years from now. So you're looking at 10 years or so for it to probably be in design, and then several more years to finish that and be constructed. You are correct. This could be funded through safety money. If we go through the intermediate and it still has issues, which it very well could with South Road left turns and the speeds, and we recognize that some of the issues that are being addressed with this potential solution don't solve everything. So as we're observing this, and if the data shows that there's still issues to be resolved here, something more significant like a roundabout could be funded with safety money within the next few years, absolutely.
Okay, and my second question is, for the intermediate solution, was there any consideration or discussion about wider turn lanes to allow for a 2-stage left out of the side streets?
We don't currently have any 2-stage turn lanes that I know about in the state.
I'm not aware
Yeah, so that would be different for us to do. We have to probably go to the front office and present that.
Doug,
I know
from South Road?
there's been consideration of that on Irma Road in Salem and Route 111, conceptually, which is a similar problem.
Yeah.
I, full disclaimer, I work for the HBM.
Okay.
I would suggest considering it could alleviate some of the left-turn problems on the site.
That's interesting, we'll have
Yeah.
to consider that, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Erin Sterling. I live on Lake Road, and I'm speaking as a private citizen. I work for the US DOT. So just curious, obviously if we do ultimately a roundabout in the future, we're gonna have to socialize the speed limit change, correct? People aren't gonna come in 50 to a roundabout.
Right, there would be a more local speed limit drop, yeah.
Sure, so like, I guess what would be the problem for not trying to socialize that speed limit change now? We know like 55 drops to 45, drops to 40 at 125, with some behavioral like signage and outreach and education campaigns. I think we will all commit to going to the speed limit, and hopefully, you know, if we can get even just a percentage, I think we can save some lives. And I think we can't leave here without looking at these diagrams and recognizing, yeah, those are just crashes, maybe, right? But when we talk about serious injuries, we're not talking about somebody like breaking their leg. Like, we're talking about life debilitating injuries and fatalities, obviously, that not only impact us as citizens, families, but also economic costs associated to our state. So I think it's important to really push that. And, you know, I think, yeah, sure, maybe 50% of people won't change their behavior year one, year two. But we know we see enforcement out there all the time. There are dollars going to enforcement from the feds. I just think it's getting overlooked in this particular area. And I think it's something that should be considered for a short-term solution.
I appreciate that. So I will relay this much less eloquently than Bill Lambert, my supervisor, could, because he was the traffic bureau administrator for 23 years and ultimately was responsible for the speed limit.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So with this being a state road, and I'm gonna apologize for this not being as eloquent as it should. The traffic bureau administrator essentially has the ability to determine the speed limit on all state roads. There is some legislative going through to potentially change a road like this to 45 if the town desires, and I think that's still, I forget if it's in the House or the Senate right now, but there's a bill going through the process there. It would have to go through the Bureau of Traffic, not to say it couldn't happen by any stretch, but it would need to go through the commissioner and the Department Bureau of Traffic to make that giant change and formalize the sign. And it could be accompanied with some message boards or such, or extra enforcement being visible. I'm not saying we can't do it, just from our observations in general, we noticed it doesn't make a huge lasting change.
Well, I have a question.
This,
This summer, we have 2 projects on North Road that are slated to be done. Is that a request that the board can make to prioritize this project above that?
I'd have to look and see which projects those are, so I'm not too familiar.
Go ahead.
It's project 22612 and project 23610. The paving. You've got the.
Oh, okay, paving ones, okay. Are those part of the district resurfacing ones, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can look at that.
Hi, my name is Marie Diane. I live in Kingston, New Hampshire, and the motorcycle fatality was a family member of ours. I'm just curious, you said it, for the four-way intersection, or four-way light, doesn't meet signal warrants that intersection. What exactly is it missing that it doesn't warrant a four-way?
Steve, do you think you can?
Yeah, sure. So the MUTCD, or the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is what the signal warrants are published in, has what they call a crash experience warrant. And currently, and this is in the 2009 version of that document, which the DOT, that's currently what they've adopted. There is a new version of this that's come out that the DOT is working to implement. But the current version, that crash warrant requires 5 crashes in a 12-month period that are correctable by a traffic signal. So it can't just be say a rear end crash is something actually traffic signals make worse in most cases. It has to be something like an angle collision, someone pulling out of the side road or taking a left turn and getting hit, those types of crashes. You have to have 5 of those in a 12-month period to meet that warrant. And currently, the data we have doesn't show that in a 12-month period. The new 2020, 24 version of MUTCD, that has gotten a bit easier. They have 1-year warrants and 3-year warrants, and the numbers are slightly lower. So if DOT decides to adopt that in the future, and it's actually in the report, it could be reevaluated. But again, at the moment, it doesn't meet those 5 crashes in a 12-month period.
Do they consider it being a four-way intersection, direct, without any traffic signals?
It's just based on the data. So it's a 4-way intersection with so many accidents and how many of them are corrected by the traffic signal.
But the data that you're using is from 2020 and prior, correct?
Correct. So again, if the data is reevaluated, and again, using that newer warrant, it may show that it's possible that it meets it.
Steve, do you remember how the, because the signal warrant also is based on, you know, your peak volumes and turning movements and stuff to a degree too, and I don't know exactly without skimming through the reporting on.
So as far as, they also have volumetric-based warrants, aside from crashes. So if you have a busy intersection that has a lot of side road traffic, they can just meet warrants on volumes alone, forget the crashes. Given the 1,000 cars a day, the 100 cars an hour at most, this intersection does not meet that, especially with a significant amount of traffic that's able to take right turns. Those are generally removed from the traffic signal warrant. So yeah, I don't think it met any of the volume.
I don't think it met any of the volume warrants as well.
Sir, could you please speak up a little bit more?
Yes, yes.
Are the signal warrants, the data behind the signal warrant? No, not necessarily the data. The signal warrants, are they determined by the feds or by the state?
The document mentions the federal document. So, you know, it's got participation by all the state DOTs, and the data is coming from other sources.
But they're the ones who decide 5 crashes and all.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it's a consortium of transportation officials that ends up being a federal document. And generally, the state DOTs adopt that document, or they may amend it. Some states, California, have their own higher level version. They have to meet that document.
Do you know when it's due to be updated? You said it's from 2009?
So the new book is out. The feds have published the new book, but DOT is implementing it over the next 2 years. So they have to review it, make sure they agree with the practices that are in there, and then slowly roll it out. I think you have to have adopted it within 2 years.
I think the time period is 2 years from the release, which was earlier this year, a couple months ago. It's just, I mean, it's the entirety of pavement markings, signs,
Would that affect
signals.
us? Would that help assist us with that, with the new edition, if you're familiar enough with it? Would that be any assistance in that situation?
It does allow some more flexibility for signal installation. It doesn't necessarily have to meet the warrants by volume or turning counts, but it can be a little more open-ended, I guess, in terms of need, and it does reduce the crash requirements as well to qualify for a signal. So it does make it a little bit easier.
So you're thinking in a year or two, what you were talking about originally, in a year, about the same period of time, we'd have better options than we have right now. Is that the gist of it?
Based on the newer document, it would improve those chances, and if we added the years since 2020 to the crash analysis as well, Amanda noted we just got 2023, so we do have 3 more years of data outside of this sample that could potentially help. Yeah, absolutely.
Just one thing to add to that, both the current document and the past document have statements in it, particularly for the crash experience warrant, that they recommend other remediation measures are taken before installing a traffic signal. Things like
Preconditions? we would have to meet before
Not conditions you have to meet, but they want to look at doing other measures that may improve things before you construct a traffic signal, things like the left turn lanes that Corey was talking about. If that solves the problem, they'd rather not go right to a traffic signal. Problem with traffic signals is they can increase crashes, especially ones that aren't warranted. If you have a very small volume of traffic coming out of a side road, you get traffic on the main line that starts to say, well, there's never anyone there. There's no issue if I go through this.
I think the point of what we're trying to get here, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to do something, and I don't know, what your suggestions would be, something we can do sooner rather than later, like, so we can eliminate some of these issues, these people that have a safety going to work every day. So maybe there would be a simpler, something that we, or one of the preliminary things, something that practical, a suggestion that we can do. Am I
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely. Yeah,
Isn't that what we're looking for? We're looking for an improvement on this road, is that not right?
yeah.
Hey, Lois, let's let
It's
everyone.
okay, John, I can speak, thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
respecting the order.
So, yeah, so the DOT is promoting the intermediate structural plus restriping solution. And that would also serve as Steve mentioned, when the DOT accepts the new traffic control document to make the signals potentially easier, this would qualify as an alternative solution to that area. So that check box would be qualified and step taken care of already. So this actually would also help the potential of a signal down the road, if that was something Brentwood wanted to pursue.
Corey, can I ask a quick clarifying question? If
Yes.
we were to move forward with the intermediate solution potentially as soon as this summer, when I saw your roundabout diagram, everything that we would do in the intermediate step would still be part of that, so it would sort of be the early steps were already done. You would, even with the roundabout, we would still keep the left turn lane, we would still keep all of those other changes.
Right, the two-way left turn
So there
lane.
would be no wasted work
Correct.
by doing the intermediate and then potentially going to a roundabout in 10 years.
Right, the benefit of doing the intermediate improvement this year would give you that two-way left turn lane in front of all those businesses just north of the intersection, which would be perpetuated in a long-term roundabout solution. The left lanes would obviously go away for South Road because it's a roundabout and you don't need them anymore.
Right.
But it would also drastically improve the turning movements out of South Road.
But the lane changes and the change of the 5% gradient, that would all be probably required for the roundabout solution as well.
Yeah, that might be something that the corridor that we improve this year could be improved a little bit further to reassert the proper grades and maybe some minor structural improvements if it needs it at that time. But yeah, the majority
I
of
just wanted
it.
to clarify that choosing the intermediate option is not at all exclusionary or definite for moving forward to a roundabout someday.
No, it certainly doesn't lock you out of, okay, well, you picked
Doesn't
this,
lock
now
you
you
out
can't
of
have
it.
that.
Yeah.
No, it would be kind of a later add-on, if you will. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Becky Gunn on Block Drive in Brentwood. A lot of information to absorb tonight. Thank you for doing that presentation. Hearing it once gives me some sense of what options are out there, but I would like to watch the video and learn a little bit more before I make a decision. But I don't know how many of us in the audience were here when the Middle Road 125 section intersection did not have a light. That was probably prior to a lot of these people leaving here. That was a very dangerous intersection. And the improvement in that with turn lanes and a light has been significant. I don't know where your 48% comes from, but that has been a major improvement. I would like to consider that is very different. If we can go ahead with turn lanes, better marking, and a light, I think that would be a good long-term solution. I think we have to think about this carefully because we've got a lot to absorb before a decision is made. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate it, thank you.
Sorry, Councilor, it was like all of us.
You're president, you go first.
You take back.
Everyone will say.
Hi, my name is Eric Canty of South Road, resident of Brentwood. I was just curious why, you mentioned the 2023 data just came out. Why was 21 and 22 not included if that's obviously more recent?
Do you have a logical
So
response to
it
that?
depends on when we had the crash data submittal to the consultant, and I'm not actually sure what the date of that was or who was working on that. So that might have been why. So whether it was probably us, but we will look at it going forward. That's obviously going to be, everything that wasn't included from 2020 is going to be included.
So a lot of times when these RSAs get generated, we have the towns provide the crash data for typically the last 5 or 10 years if they have it available. So this may have just been the period of time that Brentwood had available. I don't know, honestly, I'd have to look back. But there's also a lag time between the DOT getting the crash information from state police and DMV, which is why we just got 23 data and we're 4 months into 2024, which is actually pretty good. I feel like it's smaller than that. But we can look into it for sure.
And that data comes from the local, the towns, not the state, even though it's a state road?
It depends who responded to the crash. So if a state officer responds to the crash, it's gonna come through the state police. And if it's a local Brentwood or Kingston or whoever's responding to the incident, it would likely come from those municipalities.
Okay. Were you able to get the slide deck that you presented?
Yeah, so I'm working on creating a project website for this one. It'll be available on the DOT website. It will have the road safety audit document, which I can bring up real quick, which is this. It's 133 pages of all the information you could ever want to know about this intersection and all the work that the consultant HG went into it. And I will also get the presentation that you just saw up on there too.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and I know Mr. Lambert did communicate with all stakeholders, most of which were part of this process prior to this meeting. So I think you have all our email addresses, so if we could just get notification once that's published, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about the intermediate solution and you're looking for formal written support from the town of Brentwood.
Yes.
What does that look like? Is that a letter? Is that citizen, residents voting on something? Is it, what does that look like from a process standpoint?
I guess I'd leave that up to Brentwood to see how they would want to manifest that document. Like a memo is good, an email is good, something written.
Okay, so would we have a dedicated meeting that we, residents would attend, that we would discuss this and we all speak to it? Or is this forum enough of a public request to satisfy that? Or I want to do what I can to follow up, and I just want some specific guidance on how to make that happen.
I think if you have an opinion right now, feel free to voice it. I think, just from listening to the presentation, I have an opinion already that the intermediate solution seems to be kind of a no-brainer. But I think we need to discuss it as a board and discuss it with our chief of police, our acting chief of police, our town administrator, the stakeholders. So I think whatever the stakeholders feel comfortable with is probably what we should do. If we're ready to make a decision tonight, we can. If we need to have an additional public forum after people have had a chance to digest this, watch the video, we can do it however makes sense for the town, because we want to do the right thing.
Okay, very good. Well, if I have a vote, I am very much in favor of the intermediate solution as well. I think it makes a lot of logical sense, and it sounds like just it's somewhat of a timing thing, because you mentioned that we would have to provide comments in order to have it become part of the 2024 state-funded District 6 resurfacing project. Is there like a deadline when that?
I don't know if the deadline, I mean, they would start work in the near future. I don't know what part of District 6 they would start paving first.
Is that like the RPC? Who?
The RPC would
drive that?
So it's typically, I believe, DOT decided between our Materials and Research Bureau, our pavement section, and the districts to help identify it. I'm sure the RPCs, I'm not too involved in that part of it, so I'm sure the RPCs are involved in that. But they are aware of this stretch of 125 as well, potentially swapping out for one of those other sections that were mentioned. So it is on the radar, so I'm not necessarily concerned about, okay, if there's not a response in a week, we're waiting 3 years or whatever it is. So if Brentwood's in favor of it, we can get things moving beforehand, but we just want that written formal documentation that Brentwood is supportive of that.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Councilor Janet Stevens. I represent District 3, which encompasses 32 towns and cities from the seacoast to Salem. I was contacted by the Commissioner of Public Safety, Robert Quinn, regarding a local resident, a veteran, killed at the intersection of Route 125 and South on September 10th, 2022. September 17th, I communicated with state police to get a sense of the traffic data and accidents that occurred at this intersection. During those conversations, I learned that this intersection had been overlooked as part of a corridor study. I immediately connected with two local residents and activists who are here tonight, Eric Canty, who you've met, and Marie Bayhan. I reached out to Commissioner Bill Cass at the Department of Transportation and said, you need to get out here. We did host a formal site walk on December 19th. DOT was present with 3 staff. The town of Brentwood was here with 2 staff. The administrator and Chief Ventura. We had 2 local residents, and we had Dave Walker, who's everywhere, from the Regional Planning Commission. A lot was accomplished. My greatest concerns right out of the gate, we need to have direct message signage. We need driver response feedback. You need a turn lane. We know we need short-term, mid-term, long-term. That was discussed. Following the site assessment, it was agreed to proceed with a road safety audit. The Regional Planning Commission worked with Brentwood Chief Ventura and Karen Clement. And as you all know, a road safety audit is the precursor to moving forward with a highway safety improvement program. So from there, on February of 2023, I pushed Commissioner Cass to confirm that the Highway Safety Improvement Project, the road safety audit, was in progress. March 23rd of 2023, we held a public forum here, and many of you were here. I've gotten to know many of you. The room was packed. And at this meeting, we had commissioners from the Department of Transportation, Public Safety, we had state police, we had local law enforcement, we had Rockingham County sheriffs. And during this meeting, we heard the testimony of those who had been adversely impacted, who had sustained accidents. Many had life-altering injuries, were struggling with insurance issues, traumatic brain injuries, orthopedic injuries. So to your point, ma'am, I fully get it. Within 96 hours of that meeting, Commissioner Quinn and the state police, we had the full support of police departments up and down 125 for saturation. That saturation went into effect for 2 months. Over the span of 2 months, we had, I want to say, pardon me 1 second, 358 hours of safety enforcement. 950 vehicles were stopped. 245 for speeding. So it was impactful, and we also had signage out there. 5 of the 11 most dangerous roadways in the state are in my district. I take this very seriously. On July 11th of 2023, a group of us, I think there was 25 of us strong, went out in hot weather and did the road safety audit. And what you have here tonight is a culmination of a lot of work. I will do whatever I can to push this forward as quickly as I can. One thing that's been very important is presence at our 10-year transportation improvement hearings. Mr. Kleinman was present. The Bayhans were present. We can push this forward as quickly as we can. I thank you for all that you've done so far. And again, I'm sorry. Captain Vetter of the state police has told me, counselors, stay off of 125. It is beyond dangerous. So I'm so sorry, but trust me, I'm doing everything, and many people are doing a lot to make this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Hi, Betsy Ibbotson. I live on Scrabble Road, which is right at an angle with 125. So anywhere that I need to go in Brentwood, I have to turn left on 125. So it's not just South Road that's a big problem. It's all the little roads that come out on 125. Personally, I think if the speed limit was lower, I try to drive the speed limit. I'm not perfect, but I try to drive the speed limit. So when I'm on 125 and the speed limit time is 55, you feel compelled to drive 55. People behind you are going 55, and they're right on your butt. So if the speed limit drops down to 45, more people that do follow the speed limit, I think will drive 45 on the road, which is going to drop the road limit down.
I appreciate that. There is that legislation, like I did mention, to potentially drop roads like this, rural roadways to 45 if the town's lobby as such.
I just wanted to confirm that, is that SB 471?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Is 125 an unimproved rural highway?
Unimproved would be, it doesn't have to be a dirt road.
I'm trying to find this.
I think unimproved is more like development-wise, and not like
You know what's
road material.
Is it what it's talking about?
45.
Yeah.
So if that law passes, I don't believe there's any initiative to proactively identify these roads and change them to 45. It will be kind of on a request basis. So if that's something Brentwood is interested in, I would urge you to follow that legislation and act on it if it does make it all the way through. And also to the Bureau of Traffic to lobby for a potential speed limit change from them, because they have the final say. Yes?
So, just to follow up on that, there are two options. There's the statute, and then there's getting a decision by the department to change the speed.
So if the department were to change the speed limit, there would be a speed study conducted. And given the TomTom data that we looked at and had the average, it was a little under 55. I'd be hard pressed to say that would lower it to 50, say, for example. But you would need to prove that the traffic out there is going lower than the posted speed to then successfully lobby for the sign to change lower through that means. So the legislation is probably the better bet of the two.
I'm not sure I'm following it. So where you said that the speed was up at like 57 or so on that road, that would be evidence to lower the speed? Because just to follow, I think, I'm totally in agreement with what you said, Eric, and it's a, proceeding with the intermediate, steps is a great idea, but I also agree with, comments by you and just by Betsy about, speed. I think that is a killer out there. And I have like a lot of faith in our police department in terms of enforcement. I've seen them out there before, and I think we'll see them out there continuing. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So there's this one option if the statute passes, but then there's another option, which I'm not sure I'm understanding how we were to proceed with that action.
So if Brentwood wanted to change the 55 mile an hour posted on 125 right now, there would be a speed study, probably with something physical, whether it's tubes or cameras or such on the road to document the speeds. And that would be analyzed for the 85th percentile, which is essentially what the speed limits are based off of. So our sample size here that we looked at from our TomTom data shows 57 miles an hour in one direction and 59 in another direction. I'd hate to see that bumped up to 60. I would hope that wouldn't happen because they're going higher. I don't set the speed limit, so I don't know if that's something that would happen.
No, we're not talking about hoping to.
No, I know, right. No, I understand, but the result of the speed study would potentially dictate, okay, they're going 60, it should be posted for 60, and that would be counterproductive to what we're trying to
So that
accomplish.
has happened in other towns. They've requested the speed limit lowered. The department's response to that is to do a speed study. And by the speed study, if the 80th percentile is higher than the current speed limit, the speed limit would go up. So that has happened in some places. So that's why I'm saying the statute by people that are watching. This is
Entirely counting two
So,
of them.
it happens later. That's all we're saying. That's the policy.
It would not benefit the safety
Right.
initiative we're trying to.
Hence, that's why you said legislation.
The legislation, it even.
So everyone email Eric Kerr and let him know that you'd like to see legislation to drop the speed limit on 125.
That would probably be your easiest and most productive means to get those swapped to 45s instead of 55. Short of a signal or a roundabout or something to physically make drivers slow down.
Dave Walker with the Rockingham Planning Commission. We're, involved in this. We're an interested third party and advocate for this type of work. And I guess I'll just throw out my recommendation to the town. I would definitely support the town going forward with the intermediate and also pushing forward with a long-term solution as well. Personally, I would advocate for the roundabout version of that versus the traffic signal. Both either would certainly have a safety improvement. They both would probably happen on the same sort of time frame at a relatively similar cost. A roundabout is a much safer option overall than a traffic signal. Once the town moves forward with that, there are options for how it might be funded going forward. I think the worst case scenario is that the roundabout or the signal, whatever, gets into the 10-year plan, and you have to wait 8 to 10 years for that to be funded.